Hey YouTube, Big Mojo here, bringing another YouTube video to your eyes and ears. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be reviewing some World of Warcraft content. I know it's a bit of a departure from the League of Legends content, but I've been playing a ton of WoW lately. So, and in doing so, I've been recording a lot of my dungeons and raids in hopes of improving my gameplay. So that's what this video is going to be. We are going to be taking a look at my first Mythic Plus key here in Season 2 of The War Within. I play a disciplinepriest and we go through a +2 Mechagon. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and thanks for watching. All right, here we go. For this key, we are doing a +2 Mechagon. I am running a disciplinepriest as a healer. I've really been enjoying playing healer lately. It's a really fun class. It's really nice to actually be dependent upon in the group. But in this group, we also have a DK tank, which I absolutely loathe as a healer because their health bars just yo-yo up and down so much. Always is just keeping me stressed out. But yeah, we got a blood DK, got a rogue. I actually don't know what kind of rogue it is. I don't even know which kind of rogue that is actually. And then we got a what looks like a survival hunter. Yep, survival hunter, and then a ret pally. So full disclosure for this key, I know Mechagon is old content. I never have done Mechagon before this particular key that we're running right here. So I didn't have the heart to tell the people I was running with. I was really banking on the fact that I'm kind of sort of over geared. Coming into the start of the season, I think I had an item level of 632, I want to say, which the mid-season, every season 2, season 3, and if there's gonna be a season 4 in a given expansion, the start of keys is always easier compared to a season 1 where you actually have to get your gear up to a proper level. So that's what I was banking on. I was like, hopefully I'm over geared enough, and as long as I keep health meters up, I'll let everyone else worry about getting the dungeon done. Also, one thing that I'd really like that they've done with season 2 here is implementing the visual changes to things like area of effect. So my other rule of thumb is avoid the swirlies, and things should probably go all right. For this particular run, the tank, the DK, he's actually a person in my guild. So you might be able to see some of the Discord communications in the top left hand. He was giving us call outs the whole time of like what to expect for the given boss. The only thing he really said for this one was that this boss is more of a tank boss, and so just don't stand in the way of anything and you'll be fine. So going into the fight, I usually like to start off with doing a flash heal on the tank. That way I get an atonement both on the tank and on me. And like I mentioned kind of earlier, I'm just actively avoiding everything, avoiding the swirlies, avoiding the little saw blade guys. And then just keeping atonements on everyone. I don't really know what the boss's abilities are. Like, yes, I do see them coming down the right side there. That's I believe it's a weak aura for Little Wigs. But I don't know what all the abilities do. So I'm like, just to be safe, I'm going to try and maximize having atonement up on all my teammates and just going to keep trying to do as much damage as possible. That way, no matter what happens, they should stay alive. And so far that's gone over pretty well in this fight. The DK health bar constantly going up and down always just makes me so nervous as a healer. I did have a little bit of trouble. Even though like I knew I was supposed to not stand on lines and get hit by the saw blades, I think I got hit by them like 2 or 3 different times in this fight, which was super annoying. Watching this video now, one thing I definitely realize is I don't actually know what the bombs that are on the ground do. Like, I'm assuming don't hit them. That's probably a bad thing. I imagine they probably go boom if you do. But I don't know like what would cause someone to run into them. Is it maybe going to be a thing where like as keys get higher, there's just going to be more of them on the floor and you have to actually work your way through them? Maybe I'm doing a nice job of like staying distant, so when they are shot at me, they do like land pretty far from the boss, and then my tank is doing a really nice job of like cutting us away. So that's one thing I have as a takeaway from this particular boss is what do I need to be worried about when it comes to the mines. Another thing, everybody except the tank right now, or going into the end of that fight there. Everyone but the tank has some sort of debuff on them. I don't know what the debuff is, what it does, or how bad it is. So that's something I should go look into afterwards. Overall, though, that tank fight was pretty simple. Following my rule of thumbs of don't stand in bad and keep atonement on everyone definitely was helped me get through that boss fight pretty cleanly. As I go through trash here, again, I don't really know what the trash is or what particular units I need to keep an eye out for. I believe it's Little Wigs that has the abilities to the left of the nameplates of the enemies. So generally what I'm trying to do is keep an eye on those, and regardless what the ability does, once the timer gets close to 0, I got to make sure I pop a radiance and get atonements on everybody on my team. That way, again, just to be safe, I'm ready to do a bunch of healing if absolutely necessary. Moving on to this next pack, another thing I like to do is when I don't know who's going to be bad in a pack, is generally try to find the unit that there are less of. So that particular fight, there was like 2 metal gunk. Yeah, there's 2 metal gunks, and there were 3 of whatever the other unit was. So the unit comp where there's only 2 of them, the metal gunks, those are likely going to be higher priority. Maybe those would be spellcasters or something. So that's generally what I try to do if I go into a trash pack and I just don't know who does what. It's one thing that's fun about healing a blood DK. You can see down in my healing meters in the bottom right there that me and the tank are like jockeying back and forth for like top healing on the team. This particular guy that I play with, I'll joke with him about how he doesn't really actually need a healer anytime we do keys together. Yeah, so far this trash is pretty forgiving. This is also at a +2. Like +2s don't really hit super hard here in season 2, which is really good. I'm grateful for that. Yeah, so far the trash is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Nothing to worry about too much. One thing I'm also liking about doing this review is I actually get a chance to keep an eye on the damage meter, so I can actually have a better idea of like who's doing well damage wise in the group. It's hard for me to like focus on that in the middle of actually doing a dungeon because I'm just so focused on making sure no one dies or like learning the different trash packs or learning how the boss fights. So I never really get a chance to evaluate how are the different classes doing, the different specs doing. Are there certain types of fights where one spec does better over the other? Like these are all large trash mobs, so clearly the rogue is cut out to do large trash mob fights. Same thing with the Ret Pally, which Ret Pally always is. But so that's one thing I'm really enjoying about going back and watching the video like this. I have a second video that I might try to put up this week. I do have a +5 mother load, which that particular video is going to be funny because going into it, I joined some people in my guild to do some keys, and I'm thinking we're just doing 2s, maybe even 3s. I'm like, yeah, you need a healer? I can happily join you. And then I join and I see we're doing a 5, and I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna say anything. Again, just gonna heal as much as possible. And it was actually a mostly clean run. Yeah, and got a little bit messy, but stay tuned for that video. Let's see what else. Moving on to one thing I'm really trying to focus on this particular season when playing, just generally, is actually utilizing my weak auras underneath my character there. Those are the Luxthos. I think I said his name right. Those are the Luxthos weak auras. I haven't really adjusted them. The only thing I've really adjusted is moving the 2 icons on the right and left side. I added those there. Normally they're down like in the utility bar area. But I'm really trying to focus on only keeping an eye on those. You actually do see my 3 action bars at the bottom. Towards the end of last season, I actually had those hidden at all times. I only turned them back on for the start of the season because the priest kit changed just a little bit, mainly with adding evangelism and uppies. So I just wanted to make sure I knew where those were so I could kind of build the muscle memory with the keybinds before I set them back to hidden. So one goal I have this season is to focus mainly on keeping an eye on the weak auras themselves instead of having to look all the way down at the action bar. That way I'm able to see more of the screen and see more of the fights that are happening. Moving on to this boss though. This boss, I actually kind of knew a tiny bit on how to fight, only because I've been watching a lot of Automatic Jack during PTR, and I distinctly remember watching him do this fight, and I remember him hiding behind the boxes. So our tank as well also did a nice job of calling out that we need to be hiding behind boxes as venting flames is about to go out. Unfortunately, our Rep Pally did not get the memo that we're supposed to hide the box. There was a little bit of miscommunication. He thought you had to run out, not run behind the box, so that's why he ended up dying. I realize though, another takeaway from me, this debuff that is currently on, that debuff that's on the tank, I remember the tank telling me that like he is going to have a debuff, and I am supposed to let it sit for a little bit. Don't instantly dispel it. I really do need to look into like what does it actually do, and how much damage does it do, and try to figure out when is the optimal time to actually dispel it. Also, is there any penalty for dispelling? Because I think after that first one, it looked like dispelling it caused party-wide damage, and I think that just confirmed it as well. So it does do party-wide damage. I got to keep an eye on that. But ultimately, I got to look at and see what that ability is, and ultimately what happens. For that particular mechanic, our tank was telling us to like make sure we don't let the boss like run into the boxes. So I do want to look a little bit more into like like if he does, does it take away the box or does it weaken it? So just another thing to look into. I mean, ultimately, a lot of these things I need to look into are going to be just having a better understanding of the boss mechanics. But one thing I'm definitely going to do next time I fight, or next time I do this boss, is when the tank has that debuff on him, I need to make sure I pop out a Radiance before I dispel it. That way, when I dispel it, everyone's already got Atonement on them, and I can just do a bunch of damage and just top them back off again. I imagine that's going to be really important as we push into higher keys like the 10s, the 12s, and such. But all in all, that boss fight was pretty easy, pretty forgiving. The mechanics are pretty well televised, so overall, I felt pretty good coming out of that. And now we're on to the next boss fight, the conveyor belt. This was so frustrating. I was making the joke to the people I was playing with. I was more focused on this moment than I was in the rest of the dungeon. Like, trying to make sure I actually can run up the, did I call it an escalator? It's not an escalator, conveyor belt. And then I fall right here. I was very upset. Apparently one thing that happened was the rogue found some way to cheese his way further along to the elevator, further up the conveyor belt, and was able to disable like the little fire chutes that come out of those little knobs on the right there. So that helped a lot. So all I had to focus on was just the actual run itself. But I was like, for the love of God, do not, under any circumstances, fall off. Especially right here towards the end. Oh, that would have been so annoying. But we do make it. So one goal I do have for this season, season 1, I actually started the season as a Frost Mage and did DPS. And I ended up actually switching to healer about halfway through. I've never really loved doing DPS, but I was always too scared to actually play anything else like a healer or a tank, because I was too worried about not knowing enough about the game, not knowing enough about particular dungeons or raids, that my teammates wouldn't be able to count on me, and then people would flame me for not being any good. So started the season as damage, but ended up switching to healer about halfway through. I actually started off, or my healer was actually my alt. I just was doing them on the side, bringing them along to my guild's like fun runs. And then I actually got to the point where I was actually pretty good with my healer, and my healer was actually better than my mage. And so going into the season, I decided this is going to be my main. But to wrap up season 1, I did push keys, not super far. I got every key to plus 10. I had a handful of plus 11s completed. Like I think I got one for mists, and that's actually the only one that I know off the top of my head that I got. But yeah, I got a plus 11 mists done, and I finished with a Raider IO level of like 2700. I actually have to go double check. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But that was fun. I actually really enjoyed learning the ins and outs of priest and learning the ins and outs of the different dungeons and trying to push the keys as far as I can. So going into this season, my goal is I actually want to push the keys as far as possible, not just plus 12s. I want to actually see if I can get to plus 13s, plus 14s, plus 15s. Like, see how far I can actually take this. So we'll see. I'm also hoping by doing these videos, like doing these review videos, it kind of like forces me to by doing the videos, it forces me to review my content, and it also incentivizes me to run dungeons. That way I can actually have recordings to make more videos, and it becomes like a big cycle. Anyways, we're on this fight now. I've been talking over the entire fight. This fight was pretty simple. I just had to make sure you stood in between the little like 90-degree area of effects. My tank did a really nice job of just calling us out for that, making sure we knew where to go. As I was watching through that, I couldn't actually remember if that was the boss fight or if that was just like a mini boss. The hunter did die in that fight, but I do recall from the video he owned up that he stood in something, or he stood in bad. It was not my fault. One thing I've kind of realized as I've been playing priest lately is, so I need to adjust my ramps and my spell priority, because there are some slight changes compared to season 1. One thing I initially was doing was I was casting, Shadow Word Death. During season 1, it was very normal to cast Shadow Word Death outside of Execute as a way to just do damage, which means thereby doing healing. But looking through the different guides on Wowhead, a lot of them say to only use Shadow Word Death in Execute and never at another point. The main thing you have to focus on is, once you get atonements on people, just casting as many smites as possible while mixing in the occasional Mind Blast and Penance to boost healing. But cast as many smites as possible. That way your atonement duration gets extended. So that's one thing you'll probably notice throughout this video is I am using Shadow Word Death as soon as I get done using Mind Blast, which that is something I need to make sure I don't do going forward. Another takeaway for me for this fight, you'll notice on the hunter he does have some sort of magic debuff on him. I did notice it a couple times throughout this dungeon, but I wasn't quite sure what it did. It didn't seem like it was doing a lot of damage, if it even was doing damage. But again, I have to look into that ability, see what it is, and see like how much of a priority is that I need to get it dispelled. Of course, I have it on me in this particular moment. I probably could have just moused over in my debuff area to see what it was. During this moment too, our paladin friend here was struggling with the patrol mechanics here that preceded this fight, where you have to hide in the vents to make sure the alarm bots don't actually see you. We were trying to give him tips while clearing the trash, but he wasn't quite getting it. So that's why we go back here and try to give him a little more better specific instructions to get through it. That is one nice thing about when WoW or Blizzard brings back these old dungeons, is as someone who was not really a big key pusher until the end of Shadowlands, like, yes, I played a little bit of Legion, yes, I played a little bit of WoD, yes, I played a little bit of Mist, but like I was never like a big key pusher. I just dabbled in them here or there, so I really don't remember a lot of these old dungeons. But it's nice when Blizzard brings them back, because the people that did play them, they're usually pretty good about explaining to you what you need to do to get through different things. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to figure it out on my own. Yeah, so this particular fight, I had no clue what I was doing. So I just had the mindset of kill ads, keep atonements up on my allies, avoid the circles, and avoid the laser beams. I actually got really nervous on the laser beam because I was in the middle of doing uppies, which I don't know if uppies allows me to like go over the laser or if I would be dead anyways. So, but I was nervous. I do remember the end of the fight gets a little bit chaotic, because you'll notice like the different little cog wheel guys that are like spinning around, bouncing around on the other side of the map. They kind of patrol or path towards me towards the end, and like sitting there trying to dodge while trying to get spells off. It was a total nightmare. I did get hit by the AoE, and the AoE took a third of my health, but Thankfully, being down here in the +2, it's not too bad. It's a really long disorient though, which is absolutely painful. But one thing I like about this fight is it doesn't appear that it does a ton of like party-wide damage, so I don't have to do as much prep with like getting radiances out on everyone and getting ready to blast damage to keep health bars up, which I like. As much as I do love seeing my HPS be super duper high, I do like it when I only have to focus on like making sure that 1 to 2 people are getting healed, not just the whole party. Especially once things get chaotic. Once they get chaotic and I have to make sure and everyone's health bars are dropping low, that's when the anxiety levels shoot through the roof. So I wasn't quite sure on that little moment there. Like, yes, that spell clearly was pointed towards me, but like the area of effect came up short, so I wasn't quite sure. Like, hey, will this hit me or not? So like, just to be safe, I'm gonna get out of the way. And my gamble paid off. Yeah, so the plan for videos going forward here is, obviously you're watching this one right now, my +2 Mechagon. I'm hoping to have a +5 monthly load at the end of the week. And then next week, I'm actually hoping to have a couple of the Undermine raid boss fights. I actually did live stream both on Twitch and YouTube. I did live stream when my guild went into the raid for the first time, and we got through on the first night we got through 3 bosses, and night 2 is actually going to be tomorrow after I recorded this video. But yeah, I went and recorded, I live streamed the videos, and my plan was to chop up the video, my plan was to also record the stream and chop up the videos and make individual videos for each of the boss fights. And then I realized after stream, I didn't set up my streaming software to also record at the same time. So I didn't have any of the boss fights, unfortunately did not have any of the boss fights saved for me to edit and make into videos. So I was a little disheartened by that, but oh well, what can you do? But so yeah, going forward, we're going to be doing some dungeon reviews, and we're also going to have individual boss fights as we progress through Undermine. My particular guild, we have 2 teams. We have kind of a pushing team and then a more of a casual team. The pushing team raids twice a week for 3 hours each, and they will get AOTC, and their goal is to get AOTC pretty quick. They'll also dabble a little bit in the mythic difficulty, but usually they'll only do 3 at most 4 bosses. They're not looking to prog in mythic. Whereas the team I'm on the casual team right now. I was going back and forth. I was like, do I play DPS and try to join the prog team for next season, or do I join the casual team so I can heal my first ever raid? Decided I was going to do that. That way it's a little more chill, a little bit more relaxed, and I can try to get ready and prepped to trial for the progression team here next in season 3. I was going to say something, but I don't remember what. Oh well. Excuse me. So I know one thing I want to do a little bit more research on when it comes to the trash fights in all of the keys. So I watch a lot of Automatic Jack. He writes the Wowhead guides for Priest. He does have some guidance on when you should be doing your full ramp, meaning when do you send your squid, when do you send your mind blast, when do you send your dark reprimand. Apparently you're maybe not supposed to do it every single pull, but it also only has like a 30-second cooldown like the full ramp does. So I don't know, at least at the pace we're going at right now, I definitely feel like I could easily do a full ramp on every single trash fight and still be ready to heal the subsequent trash fight. So that's something I gotta look more into, is what specifically is Jack referring to when that happens. Man, this trash hurts. They do a lot of AoE. So who was, okay, we're gonna figure this out together. Who was doing the AoE? Is it the DBM? Is it the defense bot 3s? We're gonna find out. Defense bot 3 just casts that ability that I still don't know what it does. And then the back one, short out. So short out must be what that area of effect is that's happening. So I need to keep an eye out for short outs that are about to be cast, and I got to make sure I have Radiance up as that's going to happen. As the keys progress, it might even be worth it to pop Bubble in those situations, because that could do a lot of damage. But moving on to the last fight. Again, I didn't really know a lot about this fight. The only thing I did know was dodge the swirlies and don't stand in the way of the little zappy ball guys. My tank did kind of mention that once you know the dungeon, you can actually kind of bait the balls around the fight area. But for the sake of this, we're like, just don't get hit by them. We don't want to die. We're doing really well with this key. Let's just end on a really positive note. So recalibrate, I'm guessing recalibrate is when the balls move. Mega Zap, which is going to happen in 3. I wonder if that's when the swirlies show up on the ground. Here comes Mega Zap. Nope, Mega Zap. Oh, okay, I see. Mega Zap. So recalibrate is the balls plus the swirlies. Mega Zap is a target ability. You can see it right now on the rogue. So going forward, anytime Mega Zap's going to come out, I got to make sure I see who it's targeted on. And as it's targeted, make sure I get maybe a shield on them, get an atonement. Might even be worth it to get a pain sup, especially as the keys get higher. Fortunately, the paladin did die again. I didn't see what happened though. Considering how quickly he died, I imagine he just stood in something he wasn't supposed to. It's okay though. It's a +2. It's a low key. It's all about learning, getting familiar with everything. So I did not adhere to my own rule. I stood in the way of one of the balls there. Thankfully, it being a +2 key didn't just hit me for a good chunk of damage, but nothing that was like detrimental to the key and to the team. Moving on to phase 2, I again had no clue as to it. So like, I'm gonna play as far back as possible just to be safe. Gonna dodge all the stuff and just keep it at that. One thing I did a nice job with this key I was pretty happy with is like anytime I popped Radiance, I hit it on a specific target, not on me. It used to have a habit of I'd only Radiance myself, but then there'd be times where like either the Hunter or a Warlock or a Mage, like they'd be too far away from me to actually get the Radiance benefit. So I've been starting to cast it more on other teammates in hopes that they're just going to be automatically stacked up and get healed for it. So this particular ability, I got to make sure I have Radiances ready for everyone. It might even be worth it to pop uppies in that moment because it's going to directly heal my teammates as well as do damage to the boss, which will also subsequently heal them as well. So I got to be on the lookout for that next time I do this key. This key does have a lot of movement, or this particular dungeon in general has a lot of movement, which is super not fun as a healer. I like being able to sit just in one spot and just pump out damage and pump out healing. So I had to pop uppies here. I didn't really need to. I'm still really experimenting a lot actually with uppies. I didn't use it in season 1. It's much better in season 2 now, especially now that you can actually move while using it. And I don't totally know when the best time to use it is yet, so a lot of these early videos you'll just see me pop it at some random time. I'm just trying to test when it might be good to use. But anyways, first key of season 2 done. Got a great vault slot, gonna get a 649 item level, which can be great. So hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you guys did, make sure you guys do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks.